Hello, this is Kyle rambling in a closet podcast. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I'm not sure what's going to happen here in the next 30 minutes. All I can say is that I am thoroughly injected and can feel coursing through the very veins in my body the spirit of 1776. Now, I keep telling myself, and I keep telling you, that this is not going to become just another political commentary podcast. I think there's enough of those going around, and while it's very tempting for me to do that because I thoroughly do enjoy it, I don't want to do that because I don't want to. I want everyone I want you, regardless of what you believe, to be able to listen to this and to get anything out of it. I don't want me to say something and you just go roll your eyes and go, oh my gosh, just another, MAGA guy, just another Democrat, just another libertarian. I don't want you to have to consider that because I wouldn't blame you for doing so. It happens to me sometimes too, and it's, it's hard not to. We're all very tribal people, and it's hard to listen to someone if they say things that you perceive to be stupid or tribal or partisan, which of course should be the case. I mean, it's almost like a defense technique for your ears and for your waste of time, because if you hear someone saying something and then you hear them also say something that's ridiculously tribal, you go, oh, okay, well, I don't think I have to take this guy's opinion seriously. And while that can be misleading and wrong sometimes, like, for instance, you still should be able to enjoy someone's art regardless of their political affiliation. That can be true. But also at times it can be indicative of, oh, I don't really want to listen to this guy because clearly his position, his opinion is not coming from a place of thinking, it's coming from a place of tribalism. I hope that makes sense. And that's kind of why I don't want to be political here, so I won't. Instead, I'm going to be patriotic. No, the reason I say that is because I've been in a conversation, an email conversation with my uncle, and you'll probably be familiar with him if you live in Sacramento. Or is it Sacramento? I'm sorry, Sean, I don't remember. San Francisco. I don't remember exactly where, but in California. We also had a podcast together a little while back. I just recently re-released the archived recording because I lost it on the podcast, whatever. So we had like an hour-long conversation. It was really cool, just about right and wrong and whether or not there was truth or nothing. We've honestly, Sean and I have been going back and forth on things. Ever since I was in high school. On Facebook, we'd go back and forth, and I always enjoy doing it because it's fun, and sometimes it can turn into a little bit of an argument, but that's okay. It's all in good faith, and like I said, it's just I just kind of enjoy it. And I was responding to one of his emails, and I can feel the patriotic revolutionary fervor go through my body, and then I sent him a quote, and you might be familiar with this quote. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, and that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Yeah, it goes on, but that's a little thing from the Declaration of Independence. And I gotta say, whenever I read that, I get goosebumps. I just feel great. And what is it? What's being said there? Well, there's a lot being said there, and I'm not just going to become a Declaration of Independence scholar all of a sudden, because I'm not one, but the vibe that I get from that is, when you are being oppressed and tyrannized by your government that has been put in place to secure your rights, not to tell you what to do, not to tax you ridiculously large amounts, or not even to tax you at all in general, but, we'll say that for another time. The government's there to protect the rights that have been endowed upon to you by your Creator, regardless of what Creator you believe in, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Governments are there to protect you and those rights. They don't give you those rights. They're to protect you from other people trying to take those away from you. That is literally the main existence of a state. So says the Declaration of Independence. And I was talking to my Uncle Sean, and I was expressing my belief that the government no longer is doing that. If anything, they are doing the exact opposite. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean we have the right to revolt? Yeah, it does, actually, but I'd rather not do that because those tend to be not great for most people involved. You know, I'm about to have a kid. Don't necessarily want to raise him during a violent revolution. I, of course, would be one of the ones who would go and fight in the revolution, so that would be awkward to explain to my wife as I walked out the door with my musket why I couldn't be home for dinner. She's not American. She's from a different country. I can't remember if I've told you where, but I don't want to disclose that yet because I do value her privacy. I am the one choosing to talk in front of a microphone, not her. But she's not American. She's from outside the country, and she gets it when I start spouting patriotic nothings into her ear. But it would be very hard to describe to her why I was going to go not be home for dinner to revolt against the oppressive government. Meanwhile, we still have, power and stuff. And, can you really say it's oppressive? Can you really say it's tyrannical? I don't know. Can you? I don't want to cut myself off from where I was about to go, but now I want to. Is our government oppressive? Well, if you look around and if you just think about it. If you're listening to this right now, whether you be at work, cooking food, at home playing video games, it's kind of hard to say that you're being oppressed or tyrannized. And you're probably not. We're probably not, but not in the way that we were taught. Not by the definition of the words that we were taught growing up. When we think of tyranny and oppression, we think of, third world countries and dictatorships and past monarchs and, other countries. Not us. That can't happen here. It's America. We can't be oppressed. We might have politicians above us that do things we don't like, but we're not being oppressed, are we? Are we? Well, I don't know about you, but if you drive into the state of New Jersey from Maine, you have to go through some other states before you get there, but if you go from one state where you have the right to carry a firearm in your car and you go into another state where you don't, you can be put into prison by force of law. If you fight back, you will be killed. The Second Amendment of the Constitution very clearly says you have the right to bear arms. And it's very clear why if you read the arguments that the founders made to justify the Second Amendment. It is the right to self-defense and the right to have a weapon so that you can defend yourselves from the It's not just so you can go hunting, by the way. That is a misnomer. That is wrong. It is so you can defend yourself from the government and from people who will do you harm. That is why we are allowed to have firearms, and then to be driven into prison for driving into a state with a gun in your, you could even have it in the back of your car and not even able to get to it, and they'll throw you in prison. There was a great story about a grandma. Same thing happened to her. She drove into the state. They asked her if she had a firearm, and because she wasn't politically savvy, because she was a good person who didn't think this cop wanted to do her bad, she was just being honest. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I brought my firearm in from out of state. It's over there. I apologize. I'll turn back around. She was thrown in prison. Yeah, in prison. I think this happened in New Jersey. That fills me with rage, that story. I remember when I read about it the first time, and it was just, is that not oppressive? Is that not tyrannical? Sure, states can follow their own laws. There's the 9th and 10th Amendments stating that, to the best of my recollection, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure if I remember properly, they basically say that anything not explicitly given, any powers explicitly not given to the federal government are up to the state. But it also clearly says in the Second Amendment that you have the right to bear arms, which means if there is a government entity out there that is stopping you from bearing arms, pretty confident that's against it. That is that is unconstitutional. Pretty sure. Pretty confident. Is that tyrannical or oppressive? I think so. I do. I think so. I have a pretty low bar for oppression. I guess this is just a sign of this is kind of like a first world problem things. If I am, as I described in the last podcast, if I am pulled over for a dumb reason, I consider that to be oppression. This is tyranny. How dare you make me pay $70 for going too fast? This is not right. I reject your authority and substitute my own. Listen, I'm going to go back. I'm going to try to go back to where I thought I was going, but I don't think I was actually going anywhere. So instead, I'm just going to go back to the Declaration of Independence. It very clearly states that we have a moral duty to wage a revolution against laws and leaders who do not represent us and are out there to take away and damage, or vice versa, our rights that we have simply for just being a human being. Those rights weren't given to us by any government body. Those rights were given to us by God or whatever creator you choose to believe in, even if you don't. That's why governments are there, to protect that, not to take them away, and not to give it to us either. It's funny. A lot of people will say, oh, healthcare is a human right. Well, it's not, unfortunately. Healthcare is not a human right. Healthcare is a service. Now, you have the right to bear I've made this point before, I'll be quick. You have the right to bear arms. You do not have the right to be given a gun. The government will not give you a gun. They'll not give you a pen to write your free speech on, but you do have the right to express it. You do have the right to own a gun. You do have the right, or should have the right, to purchase whatever health care you so choose, but you do not have the right. But health care is not a human right. So the government has a very simple, that was kind of a ramble, but this is rambling in a closet. Government has a very simple duty: to protect you and your rights from anyone who would try to take them away, including themselves. And I do not believe they are doing that now. And so what I was talking to my Uncle Sean about is that very idea, that there are a lot of people out there, including myself, who are getting more and more disenfranchised with the current situation, whether it be politically, economically, or both. We're watching what's going on. And by the way, obviously we don't know what's going on because we just live here and we read the news. But if we are to in any way trust that what is in the news is somewhat indicative of the reality of the situation, then we're getting a little disenfranchised over here. We're looking around and we're seeing these things that are going on, and we're like, wait a minute, this is not the bill of goods I was sold. This is not what I signed up for. I'm getting a little angry. I don't know if you remember the quote, but the tree of liberty every now and again requires the blood of tyrants and patriots, and I think that can be metaphorical. I think we're far enough ahead as a civilized society that by blood, we kind of just mean tyrants should be thrown in prison and patriots should sacrifice some of their time and energy in order to make sure these things happen. I don't think blood means we have to kill people or die. Now, that is obviously necessary at the very end. At the very end of the line, if there are people in the way of government who are literally tyrannizing you, and I mean in the very definition of the way, who are putting you in jail for saying things, who are committing crimes against humanity, against foreign or domestic people, there are actually times, don't forget, in the law, treason is punishable by death. This is stuff that still exists. I think we live in such a modern time where we go, yeah, but we wouldn't actually do that. I do believe that there is a situation in which that is necessary and moral. Unfortunate, but moral. But I pray that will never happen, because that is really awful. I do not wish death upon anybody. I do wish imprisonment, I will tell you that. There are some people that, if my information is proper, deserve to spend the rest of their life in prison because of what they've done while they've been in political office. No joke. And I'm sure you probably agree with me, even if you think it's the opposite side of the aisle. But I don't think about aisles like that. There are people on both sides of the aisle that deserve to be in prison, in my personal opinion. And what I was talking to Sean about is that this second Trump administration is in my opinion, it is a soft revolution. It is a pressure valve. There are a lot of people like me who are wondering how the hell we turn this thing around. How do we stop our country from destroying itself and becoming just another one? We are, or at least were, the greatest country in the world. We have things that no other country has ever had, and we have been in a position of cultural dominance up until recently for a reason. Two of the reasons being the First and Second Amendments and our values and our beliefs, the Declaration and the Constitution. We are a unique entity that has never existed before, to our knowledge. And it seems to be going away, and how can we turn that around? Well, there's one way, and it's it's laid out pretty clearly in the history books and in the Declaration of Independence, and that's revolution. But I don't want that. I don't think most people want that. I think obviously there is a minority of people who are just kind of itching for a civil war, you know? Of course there are. Of course. You know, and that's unfortunate, you know, and I think hopefully those people could read a book about civil wars that happen in modern times, or about when governments or people fight each other for political or, you know, economic reasons. It's not pretty. And I certainly do not want to go there ever. But something's got to give, and hopefully this Trump administration is that, regardless of how pretty and perfect it is, but regardless of how much you agree with what's being done. I mean, let's just start with something real quick. Trump signed an executive order, I think it was, saying that we're not going to be making any more pennies. Okay, do you agree with that or disagree with that? Okay, that's not a reason for a revolution, but we're just going to start somewhere small. The penny cost 2 or more cents to make, which means, just in the simplest of terms, it is idiotic that we have something that is a form of currency that is actually worth more as far as a process of making it than it is to the one using it. So yeah, let's get rid of it and just round to the nickel. I think everybody can agree to that, right? Right? Again, not a reason for revolution, but you can admit that that's kind of a cool thing. I don't know where I was going to go with that. Because like I said, I don't want to bring up things that you would have to point to and source, because then you could say, well, I don't find that source to be an authority of information. And I wouldn't challenge you on that, because of course you don't. Why would you? I don't blame you. So I don't want to, I guess I'm sorry if I just started the thread and didn't finish it. So I don't really know. Let's see, where can I go back to? Yeah, there is definitely a desire for revolution. And I will tell you right now, I'll be the first to be honest, I have it. But not violent revolution. Cultural revolution. What is happening right now is exactly what I look for and want, even if it's a little bit messy, even if things get done that maybe, probably would be best if it didn't. But you know what's great is hopefully once the table is turned over, we can pick it back up in 4 years and go, okay, let's try this again. Okay, we had 250 years. By the way, let me digress for a second. We are well due for a civil war. I mean, if you look at, I think civil wars are supposed to happen every 150 to 200 years in a nation based on just historical context. We're well due for it, and we've done a pretty good job of not doing that up until now. I'd like to keep it that way. So instead, let's just turn the table over and say, you know what, I don't want to play this game anymore by these rules. This is ridiculous. Let's just, and then 4 years from now, we can go, okay, all right, okay. Let's try this again. Do a little soft reset. Now, a constitutional convention would be nice. That's kind of the way we're supposed to do this. However, it is kind of scary what could happen in a constitutional convention, because you could lose a lot of good stuff if you had just the right amount of people go for the wrong thing. I mean, there even is a possibility that you could lose like a Second Amendment in a constitutional convention, because everything's up for grabs in a constitutional convention, if I remember correctly. So you got to be very careful. Not that 2/3 or however many of the states would go for that, but still, there are forces out there who will manipulate things. And we shouldn't think that a constitutional convention is free of those forces. If that happens, everyone is at the table, and I mean everyone. and that's frightening. So while that's still an option, I like what's going on right now, which is, hey, let's just stop spending money, audit everything, and figure out what's going on, and then kind of reset up the chessboard and see if we can't, agree to play by better terms here. And it's kind of a bummer that the media has slandered Trump so much over the past 8 years, because he is, first of all, he is not who they say he is, and I have so much proof, so much proof to prove that, but I don't want to get into that because, like I said earlier, I don't want to do sources and say, hey, look at this, and have you go, I don't believe that, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to say, hey, Trump did this, so that's why you should think he's a good person. I can say simply that he's just not as bad as they say he is, and the reason that sucks is because it's made all this very partisan. It's made it so that it is possible that some people are out there going, yeah, we should keep the penny because Trump's stupid. Can you imagine that there are people out there right now defending the IRS? Defending literal tax collectors? Hey, someone's going to be out of a job if you get rid of the IRS. It's like, yeah, tax collectors are going to be out of a job. You're damn right. Oh, my gosh. We used to think tax collectors were parasites. Not like, people who should be harmed or anything, but like really not. You don't want to have dinner with these people. Can you imagine? I honestly, this WD-40. That's my... Gotta fix that. Can you imagine having dinner? I can't. I would actually want to just to see what would happen, but can you imagine having dinner with a tax collector? Oh my gosh. I would have to be inebriated heavily in order to be comfortable in that situation. Yeah, so it stinks that, the media and a certain political party has made Trump so unpalatable to some people, because a lot of the stuff he is doing is, like, incredibly bipartisan. This is stuff that Jimmy Carter did. Like, easily, arguably, in Republican and conservative circles, one of the worst presidents ever. Trump's doing that. I think, what was it, Carter? Was it Carter who eliminated, like, 2/3 of the CIA workforce? And Bill Clinton, who did massive firings to bring about a smaller, less bureaucratic and slow government. I mean, this isn't a Republican thing. This isn't even a conservative thing. This should be an American thing. Let's stop making this government so freaking huge. There should not be 2 million people. There should not be 2 million federal workers. Seriously, that's a problem. That's not great. I think it's like 2.5 million, actually. It's nuts. I mean, that's ridiculous. Joe Biden tried to hire and did hire 80,000 IRS agents to audit and tax you. They didn't do it to audit and tax the million and billionaires, because there aren't that many. No, they hired 80,000 IRS agents to come after you, your fellow Americans, to come and make sure that you were paying every penny, and that if you didn't, you'd be punished. Because how dare you try to save any more money? You need to give your money to the wonderful, omnipresent, omniscient government who deserves your income that you work so hard for. That's what they're there for, is to make sure that you pay your fair share. Yeah. No, I don't want to have dinner with these people. My goodness, I changed my mind. It's not even going to be fun. I would just look at them the whole time with, like, squinty eyes. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of come back to the beginning here, or maybe the middle. We are literally called upon to revolt against an oppressive government. You have a moral duty to not follow unjust laws. Do you know that? Did you know that? Oh, yeah, no, you don't have to go to court and fight these things, even though that's what we're kind of supposed to do in a modern society. Even though we should be hiring and electing politicians to go into the government and to repeal these laws and to change the laws. Yeah, that's what we should be doing. But just so you know, just so you're aware, you have the moral right to go against these laws. And if enough people figure that out, they don't got anything on us. 2 million federal employees? What's that compared to 300 million people who are like, yeah, no, I'm not playing this game anymore. No thanks. And by the way, the military is not going to fight. They're American citizens too. Maybe some of them are a little evil and authoritarian. Of course, everybody has their bad apples, but like, let's not pretend like this would actually be like a war. If enough Americans went, yeah, no, we're not playing this game anymore. I want to go back to like 1780. Okay, maybe not 1780. Maybe like 1820s style size of the federal government when there were like 3 departments and no one cared who the president was because they didn't have really that much sway over you. Yeah, let's maybe go back to that and then add a little bit more like stuff for modern sake that they didn't really have or think about back then. You know, obviously we can't just go back to that, but, you know, maybe we could. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who are sick and tired of being first world nation tyrannized. You know what I mean? I swear if I get pulled over one more time, there is a high likelihood that it would be like a class action lawsuit of some kind. I don't know. I wish I had so much money. I wish money was no problem because I would just be in constant lawsuits and I would be in constant court cases trying to get all these things. I would be driving into New Jersey with a gun just to get caught, just so I could go to the Supreme Court in 3 years. I'm, of course, being a little silly, but it's kind of true. You know, I don't want to do any of this. I honestly, you know, I just want to stay home. I want to go to work. I want to afford to be able to buy a house that I'm not taxed on after I pay it off. I want to have as many children as my wife is good to have. You know, I want a baseball team. She wants 2, which is still fine with me. I think 2 is awesome. You know, I just want to live my life. I want to be left alone. This isn't my choice. I don't want to do this. I don't want to think about any of these things. But they're making me. They're putting it in my face. They're taking 20% of my income and then sending it overseas to fund God knows what. And if they're not doing that, they're just putting it in their pockets. And they're using it for God knows what, but so that they can have inside trading information to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, how do you get paid, you know, $100,000 a year for 10 years and then have a $200 million net worth? That's there. I can't remember who said it, but if you go into politics and you become rich, you're corrupt. There should not be money in politics, and yet somehow, there is. Why do I have to go to work every day just to make enough money? Meanwhile, these parasites go to some building where they blah, blah, blah with each other and pass laws and make my life worse. And then they're made. They're good to go for 800 lifetimes. Yeah, that's not cool. I don't like that. And I think a lot of other Americans don't like that. And there is a lovely little paragraph in the Declaration of Independence that says exactly what we can do about it. And God forbid it ever gets to that point. But it is a non-zero possibility now. And hopefully this Trump administration is the pressure valve that we need to release that energy so that we can actually reform the government in a proper way and not in a violent, revolutionary way. Because that would be not great. I think everyone would agree to that. I don't know. What do you think? I'm genuinely curious if do I sound like a crazy person? Does this make sense to you? Or did you turn off the podcast 20 minutes in and go, oh my God, who is this guy? Well, luckily, I have a Twitter, X. It's just Rambling in a Closet. I think it's at Real Kyle Dunning. You can find me there and send me questions. I have such a small following because this isn't really a podcast because I don't even know how many people actually listen to this thing. But I have such a small following that I will definitely answer you. I will definitely hang out and we can talk about it and maybe I'll even bring it up. No, not maybe. I'll definitely bring it up in the next podcast. This will be great. You know, we can have a lot of fun. So please do that. I'd love to hear from you. It'd be super interesting. This is Kyle rambling in a closet. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.